Ba-bum, ba-bum-bum. So, just sorting this out. It's the joys of streaming online. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Hope you're hearing me. And maybe whoever's there might give me a thumbs up if you can hear me okay. So if you can hear me, maybe a little thumbs up would be very appreciated. Cool. So good morning. We might give it a moment or two. We just wait for a few others. And in the meantime, let's take a seat. And again, if you can't hear me, because I'm not 100% sure, write me a little text in the live chat, and I can see that. So we're going to sit to begin. And as you get comfortable in your seat, and of course you can sit down on your mat if that's accessible for you, and if it's not, sit up in the chair and get comfortable. And as you get comfortable, or as comfortable as you can be, we'll close our eyes and we'll begin to become aware of the breath. We'll begin to notice the breath. To notice your inhalations and your exhalations. So we begin our practice just in a sense by stopping, by pausing, that so often so much of our focus is on the exterior and being in the world and doing what we need to do, that we often neglect the interior space. In a sense, we're not really encouraged or taught or shown how to tune into this space too often, and we have particular relationships to what's going on inside of us. And, the sympathetic nervous system, that part of the nervous system that protects us, will quite often want to keep us slightly disconnected from what's happening inside. In that quite often what we'll do in terms of our wounding or what difficult things we've been through is we hold them, we lock them away, and they become fuel. Then the charge that they carry within us becomes a way of the sympathetic nervous system perpetuating itself, feeding itself. So, Eckhart Tolle talks about this idea of the pain body, which is a similar idea. The part of us that is invested in not growing, in not changing. And it's just a short-sighted aspect to our nature. But at the same time, it's a very important part of what it is to be a human being. And when it's held in a way that is, we could say, healthier or more balanced, it's a very important tool to being a human being. But it's only an aspect of our nature, and quite often, and this is such a predicament of the modern world in particular, where we've become so, rational in a sense, that part of the magic of what we are gets kind of thrown out. That we've hundreds of years of that rational perspective to life that gets very dominant in how we view ourselves or view the world. And it's very easy for that place to become the way in which we perceive or we see or we understand. And it's a very limited perspective, that there is part of the experience of being human is just magical. It's unexplainable. It's, in a sense, it's beyond words. It's beyond form. So if we're completely invested in the rational experience of form, then there's a whole aspect to ourselves, to our own deeper nature, that we're not connecting into. And then that again will perpetuate a sense of, I'm not full, I need something else. So the invitation of our practice is to turn inward, and there's the feeding of both of these aspects. Like, of course, we move, we work our body, and that's got a relationship to the journey of our lives, to being in the world, to moving our bodies, to form, to shape. But equally, we're interested in this formless quality, this quality that is deeper, that is subtler, that is more esoteric, that is less easy for the rational, logical part of us to have a sense of. And quite often what we will meet as we're moving into these places is the resistance to accessing them. We'll have all of these mechanisms to kind of not go there as part of our way of staying safe or believing we're staying safe. Because so often the sympathetic nervous system, it creates certain ideas and rules that have very little to do with reality in this moment. Maybe there was a point at which running away or protecting was important, and it's as if that moment passed, but the program that was created in that moment maintained its momentum. So our practice is this invitation to notice, to drop a little deeper into ourselves. And as we begin to do that, something beautiful begins to happen in terms of a rebalancing. And we can see this in nature all the time. Nature has this incredible power to rebalance itself, to come back into balance. And so much of what happens in the natural world is about supporting that. And it's happening within us all the time. And yet, so often the forces, the patterns, the programs and stories that we carry are so powerful that they will block that rebalancing. They'll postpone it. And a lot of what we experience as dis-ease or even disease will spring from where we're slightly at odds to allowing life to move through us. That there is an incredible opportunity in it for each of us in terms of our own lives and abundance and joy and possibility, and how we meet what is difficult, how we meet grief, how we meet sorrow, how we meet unfulfilled dreams, how we meet disappointment. So this idea that we're never smaller than the moment, or the moment is never bigger than us, in the sense that when we go through something that is difficult, and quite often when we're slightly off, it's very easy for that experience of it's too much or it's too difficult to become the experience, to become what we are in that moment. And the invitation of our practice is to begin to find a way of balancing, rebalancing, so that as we meet adversity, as we meet what is difficult, we're able to have a sense that this is just something we're moving through. And even as we progress along this path, the idea that as we move through these moments that are difficult, part of us is able to remember that all of this will ultimately support us. Even if it's a moment that is so difficult, that is so terrible. And it's not that we don't want that moment to be there, or indeed we go looking for those moments, but as they arise, when they arise, they're part of everybody's life. Nobody comes to this earth without experiencing suffering. It's intrinsic to this human condition. And yet we have the capacity, and this has been shown through countless beings who have done this work, we have the capacity to meet these moments with what we could call a modicum of grace. Okay, so we're sitting, we'll close the eyes, rest the hands wherever is comfortable. Let your belly relax. Notice your breath. Notice your inhalation and your exhalation. Just staying with the breath. Notice the pulse of your breath. The breath arises and then it passes away. So the breath is a microcosm of our own lives. We're born, there's a filling up, and then there's a descent and a disappearing. So there's a particular rhythm intrinsic to the breath. And when we bring our attention to this pulsation, we're not changing it or working with it, we're just noticing it as it is, it begins to do something to our nervous system. But of course, the challenge, the difficulty that we can often experience is the parts of us, what we're carrying that is not aligned to this rhythm. It'll begin to bubble up. So just notice what's there for you this morning. Just notice what else is there, what else is drawing your attention. The feeling, the sensation, the state of mind. Do you feel present? Do you feel distracted, angry, happy? Whatever it is that's there, notice it. We'll just sit for another few moments just to allow what's there for us. And particularly for those of you that are feeling a little challenged today, that something uncomfortable is there for you, something difficult is there for you, it's slightly paradoxical that we would turn toward that, or we would allow that, or we would in a sense invite it in. Of course, there's so much within us that would turn toward pushing it away, an aversion. And yet the invitation of all of our lives, the responsibility of all of our lives is to really open to how is the moment arising for us? How are we arising in this moment? That's where the real gold is, the gift is, to learn how to really be with ourselves. And our practice, these practices are all about strengthening, in a sense, our container, our capacity to really hold the full experience of ourselves in a given moment. And there's a beautiful freedom in it, even though the mind will quite often tell us this is not the way to do it. As we begin to surrender to this process, there is a freedom, like a really absolute freedom. It's beyond the kind of the freedom of our material world. There is a depth of freedom that feeds our soul, that feeds us deeply. Svitantria, in Sanskrit, the word svitantria, absolute freedom. Okay, so we're sitting, we're breathing through the nose if that's possible. We're going to inhale for a count of 4 and exhale for a count of 4. Slow, long, deep breath. Slow, long, deep breath. Slow, long, deep breath. Just staying with the breath, really be in the feeling of the breath. Explore it, be curious. Could you even fake a sense of wonder about this breath that you're working with, that you're paying attention to? Slow, long, deep breath. That's it. Now stay with the breath. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 4. And then whatever else is there, whatever else this might bring up, whatever feelings, just to notice what's there, what's moving through you. And we're just creating this moment to witness, to observe the breath, to be with whatever else our complexity is showing us. Stay with the breath. Now at the top of the inhalation, can we pause for a couple of moments? Maybe 2 seconds, 3 seconds. And do the same at the end of the exhalation. And know that this, particularly at the beginning of a practice, this is challenging to stay with, but I encourage you to be with it. We're only here for another couple of minutes. So after the next exhalation, take a moment to pause and then let the breath return to its natural rhythm. Let it come back to its natural rhythm. Okay. And then slowly open the eyes. And we're going to come onto our hands and knees. Let's come onto all fours. Yeah? We'll come on hands and knees. Now, as you come onto the hands and knees, we're going to keep our eyes closed, or we're going to close them again. And we're just going to move very, very simply, very simply. So there might be a little bit of relief in terms of just initially moving the body out of a static position. But then as you begin to let the hips sway and the shoulders shrug and take some deeper breaths into the ribs, and super easy, super simple. It's a way of just getting into the body and feeling the body. So you could describe it in very simple terms as, just noticing your body. Like, we don't notice our bodies in these ways most of the time. That there tends to be a kind of a compartmentalization of our experience of being a human, where the physical experience, the mental experience, the emotional experience are kind of separated. And a lot of our practices, how they weave together, and the language that becomes available, or the understanding that becomes available as we deepen that capacity to feel the integrated sense of self. So you just breathe, you don't have to work this out. This will unfold itself because it's designed to do that. This is how we are designed as these integrated beings. So your job is just to facilitate. You just move and you feel and you notice. And know whatever needs to come up will come up. Whatever needs to be seen will be seen. This is the beautiful thing about being a human being that we often lose sight of, is that we are part of something bigger, that there is something incredible, beautiful, moving through us. And in a sense, we're here with this opportunity to decipher life, to decipher what's moving through us. And one of the things you could talk about, or we could talk about, is the idea of just stepping out of the way. And when we're in these kind of separated, too much in our heads, disconnected in a sense, we get stuck in a loop. So you just breathe and you feel and you notice, no big deal, nowhere to get to, you don't have to hurt anything or force anything. Notice the belly softening or the lower back softening. Breathe into the back of your rib cage, shrug a little through the shoulders. You can feel the fingers on the floor, thumbs. Be curious again about the feeling in the body, all these different places and parts. And breathe. Okay, so from here, very simple. We just take the left arm, we slide it over to the right, so we come down onto the left shoulder and the side of the head. Now, if you feel like you can't get all the way down, don't get all the way down. You go to whatever's available. Breathe into the space between the shoulder blades. So wherever you're noticing tension, wherever you're noticing a stretch, breathe or imagine you could breathe into those places. Just connect to these places. This is what the body has available for us. Wherever the tension is where we've shut down a little. So we breathe into, we pay attention to, and it's a process of reopening. So energy, information gets to move through the system more fluidly in a way that's less inhibited. Bring that arm back up, go to the second side, breathe into what you're finding or feeling in the body. So simple in a way. Just breathe into what you're meeting. Perfect, bring it on back up again. So from this hands and knees position, tilt your right knee out to the right. Just open the right knee to the right and begin to make circles with the right knee. And feel the movement in your hip. So I want you to see, can you let your belly relax and your hip do the work? And just notice, and then move that knee in the other direction, so move it backward. See, can you make the movement somewhat fluid? And notice if it's not. I'm just telling you again that we're not used to moving in these ways. It employs little muscles that might be stagnant some of the time. And then bring that leg down, and we'll go to the second side. Just tilt the knee out to the side, and we begin to make circles. Doesn't matter how big the circles, doesn't matter how far you tilt, whatever's available. And just breathe. Notice the breath. No forcing. And then in the other direction, same knee, other direction. Same knee, other direction. Perfect. We bring that leg down, lower back relaxed, a little sway in the hips, deep breath in the ribs, a little shrug through the shoulders. For many of us, the inclination or the tendency in the body is to sink the head and neck toward the floor. I want you not to lift your head, but think of being in your neck, the cylinder of your neck, and lift your neck up toward the sky. So a lot of what we try to do in terms of the alignment of the body is work with the spine first. But the spine is, as we call it, the backbone of the body. And as it aligns, so many other parts will come back into a healthier, more supportive position. And, the sympathetic nervous system, when we're dominated by the protective mechanism of the body, it'll bring us into a very particular position that is not about movement of energy and information or understanding or depth of feeling. It's about curtailing, stopping, stagnating, protecting. Shrug a little in the shoulders, notice the sides of the ribs. Breathe into the ribs. Now, with the fingers, I want you to see, can you grip the mat, bend the two elbows a little to the sides, bend the elbows a little to the sides, and without moving your hands, pull them toward each other. Just notice the tone in the chest and the arms. I want you to see, can you maintain it? Now, you've got to decide what level of effort you put into this. It's not going to burn you out. Slowly re-straighten the arms, but try to keep the engagement, the resistance. And if you need a break, you just take a break. Now, what we just did, right knee tilts to the right. This time, I want you to extend the foot over. Don't put it down. Bend the knee. Extend the foot. Bend the knee. Stay with this. Notice if you've bent an arm, try to press the earth away. Don't drop the head down. Keep going for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2. One more. Now, as you extend, bring the big toe down first. So can you bring the ball of the big toe? So it's easy enough to get that down, but now the little toe side. The big stretch outer ankle, outer shin. Heel might stay a little elevated, but I don't want it way up. Okay. Now, look at the leg. The right knee doesn't point down to the floor or up to the sky, points forward, and you bend your right knee forward and you sit your bum back. So it's like you're sticking your butt out. You've got a little arch in the lower back. Now, keep the leg there. Take a few deeper breaths, a little shrug in the shoulders, just to open up, loosen up that part of the body. Deep expanding breath in the ribs. We're going to walk the arms toward that extended leg. So as you do it, the opposite side becomes longer, and you might notice tension in there or resistance. Just breathe. Doesn't matter how far you get. If you're relatively comfortable here, you can put your right hand on your right calf. Breathe. And again, without moving the foot, what if you were to push your right foot into the floor? So it might stretch the leg a little bit straighter. For 3, for 2, for 1, and we'll come all the way back, and we'll step that leg in, and the lower back relaxes, and the hips sway. Deep expanding, freeing breath into the ribs, little shrug through the shoulders. Remember the weight in the hands, so you're not just in your wrists. Fingers are gripping, hands even pull toward each other. And then we'll open the left knee to the left, and we'll just extend and bend. We won't put the foot down initially, just extend and bend. Try not to bend an elbow or drop your head. Stay with the feeling in the body. Next time you extend, we'll pause, we'll bring the big toe down, you can look at the foot, little toe. So the foot points forward as opposed to out to the side as best you can. Bend the knee forward, sit the bum back. So the knee goes forward, the bum sits back. And again, you're trying to maintain that arch in the lumbar. The ribs are full, we shrug a little in the shoulders. Breathe, and we'll walk the 2 arms toward that extended leg again. Again, whatever feels available, just pause, stay there, breathe. So it doesn't have to be forced or strained. Wherever you get to, breathe. Again, if you feel like it, you could put the left hand on the left calf. Breathe into what you're meeting for 3, for 2, and then for 1, bring it on back. Okay, perfect. So we're back at hands and knees. Okay, so from here, hands and knees, I'm going to take my right foot over my left foot. So I'm going to bring my right foot right over the sole of the left foot. Now I'm going to let my right knee open to the right, so I'm not twisting the right ankle. And then I'm going to begin to sit back on the 2 feet. As I sit back, I'm determining how much weight I can take on the feet. So if it's uncomfortable, and it probably will be, I can stay slightly forward, not so much weight. If I feel like it, I can bring all my weight over the feet. So that bottom foot will probably be quite uncomfortable. And the principle is you're pushing the muscle onto the bone, and this is the realignment that allows the muscle to dilate, to release some of the residual tension it's carrying. And what then happens is the foot works better. It just does its job more easily. So you determine how much weight, close the eyes, notice your breath. Close your eyes and notice your breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to come forward, uncross the 2 feet. Okay. Little relax in the hands and knees position initially. Tuck the toes under the 2 feet and just press one foot down, the other foot down, and just notice if you can sense the difference in the 2 sides, even after that little bit of work. And then untuck. So we're going to take the left foot over the right foot. So right over the sole of the foot, almost like you wanted the front of the left ankle right over the arch of the right foot. Now you let the left knee open to the left as you sit back, as you sit back, as you sit back. And again, you bring the weight, you determine how much weight. What you may probably notice is the 2 feet will feel different. So the tendency for us in how we inhabit our bodies is one part side tends to work more than the other. Yeah, and there's all kinds of reasons and explanations why that would be or may be the case. All of them will have something to do with how we hold in our bodies, how we protect ourselves from whatever may have, created that dynamic in our system. Maybe it's something we bring in terms of our epigenetics and our ancestral line, our collective line in terms of, being from wherever we're from. There's all kinds of ways in which individuals families, communities will hold particular, what we could say, wounding that we, through these practices, get to begin to play with and release. So breathe into what you're meeting, maybe even close the eyes. Stay with the breath. You stay connected to the discomfort, but you're seeing, can you play the fine line of softening the breath, of letting some of your body relax, even though there's a bit of discomfort. Breathe for 3. Breathe for 2. And then for 1. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to come forward again. And again, we uncross the 2 legs. Lower back relaxed. Hips sway a little. If you want, you could tuck the toes under and you can have a little press, one foot then the other. And just notice how through the work we just did, that again, the tissue is beginning to soften and open and become more elasticated. So we want more of that. It holds the bones, it holds the joints with more strength and more freedom. And they're the 2 qualities we're working with, what we sometimes refer to as the masculine and the feminine qualities. And although, you know, we're men and women and we may be dominant in one as opposed to the other, identified with being more masculine or more feminine, the 2 qualities are intrinsic to us, to each of us. And developing and balancing these 2 qualities is a pathway toward freedom, toward living more fully in that more balanced way. Okay, so let's work with the hands as well here. So if we bring the weight to the left hand, we make a fist with the right hand, thumb over the fingers. Now, as we go through this, your hand is going to want to open up. I want you to keep the fist. That's a boundary. You keep it. You turn the fingers to face you. You put the lowest part of the hand down. Now, the weight is at the base of the fingers. That's the part that will stay down. It's the pivot part. It stays on the floor. You keep the fist, and then the back of the hand, from the knuckle to the wrist, is what you're kind of pulsing downward and releasing. So you're just rolling the back of the wrist toward the floor and let it go, and roll it and let it go. And you can rock to the index finger and over to the little finger, and you, very straight away, you're going to begin to meet what's there. Tension through the hand, right up through the forearm. These are the tendons of the fingers that get tight and stuck. So enjoy it. Enjoy feeling it, like you're getting into what's hidden in your body. All of that contracted energy that is locked away, hidden away, but also has a huge effect on how much freedom, ease, joy you experience or don't experience. So even this action of accessing these little muscles, what's in there is a process or a movement in the direction of freedom. Breathe, feel, notice. And then just lift that hand up, shake it out, open and close it. And then put it down. Before you go to the second side, notice the difference in the feeling and the sensation of the 2 hands. So our bodies have this incredible capacity to feel aliveness, to feel vitality. But of course, what tends to happen for us is as little places get locked up and they stay locked up, it perpetuates kind of a struggle, a disconnect, a heaviness, a dullness through our bodies that then have an effect on the psychological or the emotional experience. So we're unfolding, opening it all up. Second side, make a fist. Put those metacarpal knuckles down, and then begin to roll the wrist toward the floor. And as you meet any tension, like if you meet a strong part holding, you just pause and breathe. You just give it time. So the body takes a little bit of time because it's gross, it's form. It just takes a bit of time, a bit of patience. Breathe into what you're meeting. And stay with the breath. Be in the body, be in with it, whatever you're feeling, be in it. And that's it. Stay with it. 3, 2. Nice work. Okay. And then you shake it out. Open and close, shake out the hand. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. So the two hands working a little bit more easily now. Just you've opened up things, so it's just less effort for more result. Okay. We keep the hands engaged. Lower back, hips, relax, sway. Deep breath into the ribs. Just notice as you fill the ribs up, the expanding and the buoyant quality that begins to be felt. Yeah. So we want to bring more of that into the body, more of that quality of buoyancy, of lightness. Yes. And in the beginning, because there's an inclination toward contraction, there is effort required in re-establishing, in re-inviting that expanded quality into our system. So you shrug, you breathe, and very deliberate intention to align to that more buoyant version of ourselves. Bring the two legs over to the right. Lower your hips down to the left. Yeah. Step the right foot just in front of the left ankle. So the right knee lifts. Yeah, we've opened up the two legs. Now we're not going to move our feet, but we're going to focus on them for a moment. One foot is flat on the floor, one isn't. But I want you to imagine the 2 feet are flat against something solid. And the toes are gripping. And without moving your feet, I want you to drag them towards your bum. So you have a sense of pulling them. And notice what happens in that pelvic area as you're doing that. Now, if something gets sore or cramps, you can back off a little. We're working in ways we're not used to working. The feet are pulling to the bum. And then I want you to stick your butt out. Stick your butt out. Try to tilt the bum back. So you'll feel it arching the sacrum or lower back. The sacrum's tilting to support that. Big breath into the rib cage. Now the heavy hand, push the earth away through it. So it lifts up the torso, lifts up the upper body. Pull the feet towards you. Pull the feet towards you. Breathe into the ribs. Breathe into the ribs. Breathe 5. So all of that stretched area is where you're focusing the attention. Breathe 4, 3, 2, 1, and then soften, 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 soften. Okay, let's come back onto hands and knees. Lower back relaxes. Hips sway a little, very simple. Yeah, just let the last pose go. And then we'll bring the two legs in the other direction, lower the hips, top leg, we just lift the foot in front of the back ankle, very simple. Work the 2 feet so the toes are gripping, one actually gripping the floor, one imagining it's gripping the floor. And the feet, without moving, they pull to your bum. I'm trying to feel that. Now that creates a connection all the way from the tips of the toes through the soles of the feet, through the legs. This is what we call the posterior chain. This is the back of your body beginning to work in the way it's designed to. Pull them now. At the same time, can you stick the butt out? You stick the butt out. This is tricky. We're not used to moving in these ways yet. Okay. Now keeping it, as the bum goes out, notice what happens in the lower back. So it's moving into that more supportive arch. The bottom hand, the heavy hand, is what you push down. What I'd like you to do is, with that elbow, the crease of the elbow, I want you to turn it towards your thumb. So it opens up your shoulder a little bit more as you push the earth away. Breathe, you're getting dignified, long in the upper body. Without moving the bottom hand, pull it towards you. Breathe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then soften. Come down onto that shoulder, onto your back, all the way over onto your back. Come all the way over onto your back. 2 knees are bent. We're on our backs. I want you to notice your breath. Just tune back into the breath. If you can breathe through the nose to connect to the breath, do that. And you'll notice that as you come onto the floor, as you come out of somewhere difficult, your body will more easily melt a little. So feel what that's like in the body. A huge part of our practice is not only accessing power, but it's accessing ease or deeper rest. You know, sometimes we go to bed for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours, but we don't rest deeply. That our nervous system is so used to holding that it's forgotten how to soften and release. And in one sense, if you think about it, to rest deeply, you need to feel safe. And if the part of your nervous system that's designed to protect you is the kind of unconscious story, voice program that's going on, then your body's not going to want to rest. It's not going to be able to access it. But a lot of what we're doing by realigning the body is feeding the part of us that is able to rest more deeply. So I want you to just to notice the breath here. Just to notice it. And then go to the part, the back of the heart, the back of the ribs. Notice that place. And then specifically, could you breathe into that space? Breathe into the back of the heart. So maybe the breath is a little longer, a little bit of effort, but as little effort as you can to be connected to that space. Inhaling and exhaling. Just stay with that breath. Okay. And then let the breath come back to its natural rhythm. So very simple. Take the arms straight up to the sky. Wrap the arms around you. So hold your rib cage. Try to get the hands on the ribs wherever you can, however you can. So you're kind of moving toward the sides of the ribs. Some of you might get around toward the shoulder blades. And then can the breath move into those side or back part of the ribs again? So can you feel into, and just close the eyes, make it about the breath and the feeling in the body as you take these deeper breaths. So our sympathetic nervous system, the protective part of the nervous system, works on the idea that it's unsafe. The parasympathetic works with the idea that we are full, we're complete. We don't need to protect, we can open. So every time you take that deep breath and the body reaches its fullest, it's beginning to really support this parasympathetic aspect. That we're breathing intentionally, we're filling up, we're expanding the body, opening things up. Even in the face of, the part that goes, no, don't open up. We're doing it anyway. So breathe into it, feel it, take your time. This is all simple but powerful at reprogramming us. Just feel into it. What does it feel like at the point at which your ribs are at their fullest expression? Know the feeling. Get used to it. The more you do in this kind of a context, the easier it will be to access more of the time through the day-to-day, through the unconscious moments. A few more of these deeper breaths. Okay, let the arms relax and release. Let the breath come back to its natural rhythm. You've got the 2 feet on the floor. The feet are more or less hip distance apart. I want you to work the feet again. I want you to grip at the toes. I want you to feel them. Just notice them, spread them, move them, grip, release. Just move, feel, particularly that front part of the feet, which includes the toes and the balls of the toes. So the pads of the toes and the metatarsals, the balls of the toes. Just feel them, notice them, weight into the big toe side, weight into the little toe side. And again, it's waking up, and it's creating connection through the nervous system, all the way from the brain right down through the nervous system. As you feel into it, you move these places deliberately you're building a new type of relationship to these places. Not the unconscious pattern, the stuff that usually happens in our feet in terms of how they hold or support us or don't support us. A different, more conscious connection. And then pause, spread the toes, grip the mat, sustain it, keep it, and without moving your 2 feet, pull them towards you. So we did that in our pose a few moments ago. Same engagement, you're pulling your feet towards your hips without moving them. So they're not physically coming closer, you're just creating resistance, let it all go. Grip with the toes, pull the feet towards you, let it go. Just do it a few more times and then feel the work not only through the feet, but through the legs, into the hips. Notice the movement that happens in the pelvis. Maybe notice the lower back arcing a little deeper. Just feel all of that. Feel all of that. I don't want you to force. I don't want you to be in pain. I want you to notice as these different parts begin to reconnect. And it can sometimes be a little primitive or primal because we're doing work that we're not used to doing yet. Now, can you create that engagement and can you sustain it? Any tightness in the back, I want you to breathe into it. Breathe into the back of the ribs like we've done already. Notice the lower back ribs. Breathe into that space. Can you expand it as you breathe into it? Stay with it. Long, deep, steady breath. As you fill the ribs, very simple. Could you shrug your shoulders a little toward the ears, drop them down to the floor? Not so much you're forcing, but enough to create a little bit of length between the hips and the armpit. So you're filling the ribs up. Feet are still active. Now the back of the head presses down into the mat. Press it down, press it down. Sustain. Don't burn out. Don't force. As you press it down, I want you to slowly lift your chin away from your chest. Notice as you press the head down, the shoulders will get lighter on the floor. Keep all of that for 3, for 2, for 1. Let it all relax. Let everything relax. Just be with the breath for a moment. No work. Just be with the breath. Perfect. Okay, one more time. Grip with the toes. Pull the feet towards you, press the bum down, feel the arch in the lower back lift. Go to the lower back ribs, breathe, breathe. So the breath reminds us how to expand the body, even when the work is got this contractive quality to it. So the two need to be present, not just the contracting and hardening, but the expanding in the face of the work that's happening. Feel the ribs like a balloon expanding. Press the back of the head into the floor. Maintain that, lift the chin so the front of the throat feels long and open. Keeping all of that work, take your 2 arms straight up to the sky. 2 arms straight up to the sky. Look at the hands, they're like cups. Fingertips, thumb tips are on the ceiling. Still working the feet and the head. Stretch the fingers toward the ceiling so you notice the space between the shoulder blades is broadening. Could you press so much that the shoulders will actually float a little off the floor? Keep the front of the throat open. Keep dragging the feet towards you. Breathe 5, breathe 4, breathe 3, breathe 2, breathe 1. Let it all come down. Let it all relax. Let it all relax. Just breathe. Breathe. Okay. Feel the feet. Spread the toes. Grip with the toes. Pull the feet towards you. Notice that natural retilting or realigning of the pelvis. How as the pelvis tilts, the arch in the lower back gets deeper. Now, quite often as you make these realignments, you're going to reveal some weaknesses. So that's perfectly normal. You've got to work that line in terms of the effort you put in or the depth of movement that's acceptable. Breathe into the ribs. Maybe you could walk the shoulders a little bit toward the ears, front of the throat open, press the back of the head down. As you do that, again, lengthen the front of the throat a little. Take the two arms up again. Breathe to the ribs. Imagine as you breathe, you're breathing into the sides of the armpits and you're trying to widen into that, all of that space. Keep the throat open. Okay, I want you to keep the work in the legs even as you lift the feet off the floor and take the shins horizontal. Even though your feet are in midair, could they imagine they're on a wall? They're doing the same work they were doing on the floor. You're trying to pull your heels to your bum without moving them, pushing the bum down, press the back of the head. Can the shoulders float a little, get a little lighter? Maybe they're off the floor, maybe they're nearly off the floor. Front of the throat open still. Maintain the work. Take the arms a little bit to the left, an inch or two. Legs a little to the right, an inch or two. Keep working through the arms, keep working through the legs. Bring it back through center, go in the other directions. Keep breathing into the ribs, expanding, expanding. We're going to go back to the first side. Breathe, throat open. We're going to go to the second side, last one. Bring it all the way back. Everything relaxes, everything releases. Close the eye. Notice the breath. Breathe. So we're aligning the body. We're working with the interconnectedness of engagement, how everything is designed to work as a system, and as the body aligns to its original template, that's how it begins to work more efficiently and effectively, where no one part has to overwork. Yet, as we're learning and realigning, we're going to meet the areas that tend to overwork, the areas that are disconnected, and it takes them time to kind of come into the fold, to begin to work in a way that is more harmonious. So you got to be kind to yourself as you're working, not to overwork and not to force, just to feel and notice. And when you need to take a break, you take a break. Okay, so this time, same work through the feet. Spread the toes, grip with the toes, pull the feet towards you. Notice the work, the engaging through the legs and hips. Actively press the bum down. Feet might get a little lighter. So we might even have the heels just off the floor. Fill the ribs up. The tendency is the front ribs will fill up faster. Just notice the back ribs. Intentionally breathe. Maybe the shoulders can shuffle, walk a little to the ears or away from the hips. Take the left hand to the back of your neck. Just cup the back of your neck, and the right hand lightly to the front of the throat. Now, elbows, two elbows are going to come toward each other. So they're kind of pointing toward the ceiling. Press the back of the head into the floor. Notice the back of the neck. Slowly keep the resistance. Lift or lengthen the chin away from your chest. Just to seek in the front of the neck, throat. Not only get longer, but begin to become a little toned as you do that. As you fill the ribs like a balloon expanding with helium and you press the head down, could you float the shoulders? Could you press the bum down? And you maintain all of that 5. Throat open 4, 3, and 2, and 1, and then everything relaxes again. Okay, let the hands come down to the lower belly, just rest on the lower belly. Can you bring the soles of your feet together? Allow your 2 knees to drop apart. If you find that this is sore, I want you to walk the feet apart and let the 2 knees drop in and find a comfortable version of that. So I want you to be comfortable in whatever position that you're taking on in this moment. Close the eyes and just let the awareness be around the hands and the breath. Just notice the movement underneath your hands. Just stay with that. Stay with that. And stay with the breath. So as we do this work, this is one of the ways in which it's it becomes easier for us to access a sense of at easeness, a sense of ease. And the idea or the premise is that that ease, that quality of peace is always there for us. It's never not there, but we're not always able to access it. So these are practices that remind us, show us the pathway to that deeper quality of deeper rest becomes more accessible. And ultimately, underneath all of the stuff that's moving around or swaying around or swishing around in our lives, there is this being that is deeply at ease. That is our intrinsic or our absolute nature, part of our absolute nature, deep peace, which seems at times unfathomable and yet is the truth. A place that can be with all of the turmoil that might be moving through our lives, that we might be experiencing, and kind of keeps a perspective that goes, okay, sure, it'd be great if it wasn't here, the challenge or the difficulty, but in the same moment goes, okay, I can deal with this. This is okay, I know it will pass. And I know it's part of how I'm being invited or how I'm learning to grow. And the growth is, of course, about deeper connection to this place of peace, this place of deeper wisdom, deeper understanding, deeper ease. Stay with the breath, slide one leg out, then slide the other leg out. Feel free to keep the hands where they are, but equally, if you'd like to take the arms either side of you and turn the palms to face toward the sky, feel free to do that. Be comfortable, be warm if you want to throw a blanket on, or even throw something over your eyes, like a sleeve of a jumper or a cushion. So take a few moments, get yourself comfortable. And as you do that, can we do 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth? So a long, deep, expanding inhalation, the exhalation, with an invitation for everything to drop even deeper into the floor, into your mat. Let the attention just gently rest with your breath. Let your attention be with your breath, without moving, without shifting. Just notice your breath. And then take a few deeper breaths. If you feel like stretching, do that. Take as long as you need. And when you're ready, roll over to the side, get comfortable lying on your side. Use a pillow or your arms as a pillow. Get still again. Let the attention once again come back to your breath. So this is just a little paragraph from Emmanuel's book. Some of you know this book. I read from it a little bit. And it's a little bit on duality, on the suffering maybe that we see in the world, and particularly, the divisiveness of our time. And there's so much around conspiracy and divisiveness and how to hold it, how to meet it, and in a way that we're able to maintain a connection to, let's say, a bigger perspective. And that's exactly what we're doing through our work as we meet the tensions in our physical, mental, emotional bodies, as we meet the resistance and the holding. And in a sense, what we do is we infuse this more expansive quality. And really what we're doing is simply awakening to what's already there. That so often the contraction of our lives or the contraction of the world can consume us. It can over-tighten us. And we get stuck with a particular perspective of our own lives and of the movement of the world, or the dance of the world. So negativity within it has the seeds of its own destruction. Negativity within it has the seeds of its own destruction. You experience as you believe. The very world in which you exist, the positive and negative alike, is a product of what you hold to be true. There is within each of you, within each of us, the kernel that has contributed to the circumstances of this moment in our particular area of the country, in our time of the evolutionary process. In our dualistic world, there is great joy in dichotomy. It is part of the game of life we sometimes engage in that delights in putting one side against the other in order to find a universal truth. And this is part of the whole point of our lives. We come into a relative experience. Being a human being is like things split into all these different varieties, shapes, sizes, colors, ideas, creeds, in order for us to begin to see the unity of all of it. But part of it is how we learn to play with the dichotomy. Does it consume us? Does that become our reality? Or do we begin to see through the dichotomy the thread of union? This duality can perhaps serve the purpose of ultimate unification, but only if we know that that is the intent. Those who are great thinkers have enjoyed for centuries separating the truth in order to dissect it. Then they forget the whole cloth they took it from, and this creates pain and confusion. So this is part of the work, is that as we come into this experience of being a human, there is a cloaking, there is a veil in which we don't see through quite often. that deeper understanding of unification. So our work is an opportunity to begin to soften or peel away the layers. As long as there are those who are seeking light, there will be those who have shadows that seem to follow them. When the image can be altered so that they can see that the shadow is only their own blocking of the light, then there will be no fear, no illusion, and only the joy of leaving a physical body when one is quite through it. So let's sit for a moment. Let's come to sitting. Get comfortable in your seat. Take your time. Notice your breath. Notice your foundation. Notice what you're sitting on. So we are these incredibly sensitive beings. We have all of these ways in which we might negate that sensitivity. Because of course, when we are in those more open, more vulnerable positions, all of us have probably been hurt in those places as children. And the wounding, the sympathetic nervous system tends to create that density, that contraction, that protection. So the invitation of our practice is, how do we unfold, how do we remember we're safe, how do we emulate that through our lives in order to experience what's moving through us more richly. And within that, there is the meeting of what is uncomfortable, but there is also the meeting of a depth of joy that simply can grow and grow and grow. So feel the floor beneath you, feel your seat, feel your feet, whatever it is connected to the solidness of the earth. Let that wash through your nervous system. You are held in this moment, even if you just feel it as a very practical, tactile experience. Notice your breath. Three arms. Take a deep breath. We bring the hands together in front of the heart. And let the attention focus on that space of the heart for a few moments. The space of the center. We take our hands then to our forehead and to our lips, and then back to the heart. So it's from this space of the heart, as we allow ourselves or support ourselves in connecting into this space, that we are able to feel and perceive and see how things are connected. That this is the gift of the heart. But each of us is on this journey from our heads back to our hearts, back home to the heart. So we ask that our practice this morning support us in this unfolding journey, this unfolding process. And then to ourselves, to each other, we bow. Namaste. So good work, guys. Thank you for joining me this morning. Back Sunday morning, 9:30. We have an extended class tomorrow. There's a Thursday evenings, 5:30 to 7:30. We've 3 weeks left of this slightly longer, deeper, slower descent into that deeper place within ourselves. That's the focus of these evening practices. And then come September, we have a month of meditation. So this is something that I really, really love doing, and for my own practice, but also because it's just such a great way of really supporting each other in kind of cultivating this deeper, steadier. They call it in Sanskrit adhikara. Adhikara is the gain that you receive from that deep, extended practice. The practices are only half an hour in length, but because we do them over the course of each day of the month, it really begins to shift us. It really begins to shift us. So I hope you have a great day, and this practice will be available up on YouTube. And if you want to pay, you can go to my website, and there's a few different options to do that. Anything would be is always grateful for. And if you can't, that's fine, no problem. And if anybody has feedback that they want to give me, or anything you'd like to see in a class, feel free to get in touch and let me know. And I'll see you when I see you. Blessings.